Friends, welcome to part 1 of our video tutorial covering assignment 8. This part is largely an introduction to assignment 8. I will talk about, first of all, the case on which the assignment is based, and then I will talk about some logistics in relation to assignment 8, meaning I will talk about the instructions, the kind of files you need to generate and submit, and so forth. Now, to start with assignment 8, as usual, you need to, first of all, you need to go to Access and Excel integration module, and this is where assignment 8 is posted. So you need to click on assignment 8 link, and there you will see the file that should be used for executing assignment 8, and also the file that contains all the instructions that you need. So when you open the file, you'll see the usual instructions about submitting your work, about naming your files. Just to jump forward a little bit, as a part of this assignment you need to submit 2 files. One file will be a Microsoft Access database that contains 5 tables and 6 queries, and file number 2 will be an Excel file, meaning an Excel workbook that contains several tabs, and I will discuss those in detail a bit later. And those 2 files, meaning the Access file and the Excel file, they need to be put into one zip file that is named using the following convention. So those are very high-level instructions. Now, executive summary. Now, you can imagine, when you work on this case, you can imagine that you are a data scientist or data analyst for a football team that is a part of the so-called Continental Football League. So it's a league within which you have 20 football teams. And all 20 teams are basically competing with each other, for the number 1 spot, and overall competing for, I guess, public or fan base loyalty and attention. So you're working as a data analyst for one of those teams, meaning you're responsible for analyzing their data. Now, the case is based on the so-called draft procedure. Now, a lot of people know what a draft is, especially if they're football fans. If you don't, you can read about drafts, and drafting procedure on Wikipedia. But I'll give you a brief summary of what this whole thing is. Well, basically, each football team in a league, in our case it's the Continental Football League, they need to recruit new players pretty much every year. And usually professional football teams, they recruit players from college leagues, from college teams. Now, there is a certain set of rules in place about how those players can be recruited. Now, the bottom line is that you, as a team manager, you cannot just go to any kind of college football player and try to recruit him by offering a particular salary. So you cannot do that. You cannot just recruit anyone. Now, the reason you cannot do that, because if all teams are given freedom to recruit pretty much anyone they want, then the competition will largely be based on price, meaning whatever team offers the highest salary to a player, most likely the player will sign up for that team. Now, if that's the case, if a player is assigned based on how much money a particular team can offer, then you see that quickly it becomes a competition on the financial level between teams. In other words, whatever team has the most money, has the highest budget, can recruit all the top players from the college, and that will basically solidify that team's position as the number 1 team, because they have money to recruit the best players. Because they have money to recruit the best players, they will also tend to win the championship. Because they win the championship, they will make even more money by attracting sponsorship or by making this team more valuable in the eyes of sponsors. Because they have even more money because of sponsorship and advertisement and fan base support, they will once again recruit all the top players because they have money for it. So all those things will lead to a situation where it's money competing against money and not athletes competing with each other. Now, to prevent this situation from happening, where rich teams can get all the best players, a number of leagues, including NFL, they introduced the so-called draft procedure. Now, draft procedure means that teams can pick players from a particular roster, let's say out of the roster of college players, based on a certain order. For example, you may have the first pick, meaning you as a team, you have the right to be the first team to pick a player. So naturally, if you have the first pick, you're the first team to pick up a player from the let's say out of the pool of college football players, then naturally you'll select the best one because you have this opportunity. You're the first. Now, if you have, let's say, the last pick, let's say pick number 100, then you probably understand that by the time it's your turn to make the pick, it's your place in the line in the queue is 100. Then all the good players, all the best players, are already taken. So you won't have much to choose from. So that's how it works. Basically, teams cannot just recruit anybody they want. They need to wait for their turn to pick a particular player from the pool of available players. Now, those picks are allocated largely, there is some randomness introduced into that, but those picks are largely allocated based on the team's performance in the prior season. So, for example, teams that didn't perform well in the past season, they would get top picks. Let's say pick number 1, 2, 3, 7, somewhere in the beginning. The reason it's done this way is to make sure that those bad teams have a shot at some of the good players, so that next year they can perform better. And if they can perform better, then the overall level of competition within that league becomes kind of more equal, more fair, and that's something that will make this particular league more interesting to the fan base. Now, on the other hand, if you're the best performing team in the prior season, in the previous season, then most likely your picks will be somewhere at the back. You will not get all the early picks, so that you don't have a chance to recruit the top players. So this is how it works. It's done to kind of equalize chances of teams to make the sport within this particular league more competitive, and to make sure that financial factors don't dominate over athletic factors. So that's in my words, this is the essence of the draft procedure. So in this particular case, you're working for a team as a data analyst, and for a number of years, your team's let's say general manager has been using a particular chart to value picks. Now, given the procedure that I explained, given the drafting procedure that I explained, it seems to be pretty obvious that if you are the first team to make a pick, if you have pick number 1, that's better than if you have, let's say, pick number 17, because if you have pick number 1, then it means that you have all the players available to you. Now, by the time you get to pick number 17, it means that 16 players, 16 good or top players, most likely have been drafted already. So you have whatever is left after those top 16 picks, right? So it's obvious that pick number 1 is more valuable than pick number 17. Now, in your case, you have 20 teams, and each team has 5 picks, so you have a total of 100 picks, and there are 5 rounds for making those picks. So basically, 5 rounds means, teams, they get together 5 times and they decide who will pick which player, 5 times. So each round includes 20 picks. 5 picks by 20 different teams. So imagine the following, to kind of explain better where this pick valuation comes from. Sometimes teams they exchange those picks. For example, one team can exchange their pick for 2 or 3, their top pick for 2 or 3 picks that are not at the top, that are not the first picks. So imagine the following situation: you work for a football team in this particular league, and let's say because of the last year's performance and because of some kind of draw, you have pick number 3. So basically, pick number 3 enables you to select at least one of the top 3 players based on your evaluation, based on your performance metrics. Now imagine there is another team who wants to have your pick number 3. Now in exchange, they're offering you 2 picks. So you have one pick, pick number 3. In exchange, they're offering you to give pick number 7 and pick number 13. So you get 2 picks instead of 1. However, obviously the pick number 13 and 17, they're after pick number 3. So alone, pick number 3 is worth more than pick number 13 or 17. But the question becomes, what if they give you 2 picks? Will you be better off? Because pick number 13 and 17, both of them, they're in the beginning of the draw of the draft. So, both of them are somewhat valuable. But the question becomes, are they more valuable than pick number 3? Okay. Now, to answer this and many other questions, you need to have some kind of valuation procedure. You need to be able to evaluate, to put some kind of score or some kind of value on each individual pick. Now, as it is explained in your textbook, for a number of years, teams have been using a chart developed by Coach Smith, a legendary coach from one of the teams. So this chart was used to evaluate those picks. Now I'll just open this chart really quick. Now, this chart would look something like this. I'm talking about this blue line. So this is the chart that was developed by Coach Mike. So basically, what Coach Mike is saying, he's saying, if you have pick number 1 somewhere here, then this is the most valuable pick, and the point value that he is attaching to this pick is 3,000. Let me show you like this data specifically. Yeah, so this, I showed you how the chart looks like. This is the data. So what Coach Mike was saying, he was saying that pick number 1 is worth 3,000 points. Now pick number 100 is worth 100 points. So basically this chart tells you that pick number 1 is 30 times as valuable as pick number 100. So that's the difference. And then you have this descending order. As you go from pick number 1 to pick number 100, then the point value of those picks is decreasing. Now, as it is discussed in the case, nobody knows for sure what those points are and how Coach Mike came up with those points. But it's fairly clear that Coach Mike puts a lot of emphasis, a lot of value on those first picks. And as you go like from pick number 1 to pick number 10 or pick number 20, the value has decreased dramatically. And all the picks, after 20, you have somewhere like an inflection point here. All the picks after 20, they're just very not nearly as valuable as some of those top picks. So the value rapidly decreases. So using this chart, you can evaluate your trade. So for example, if somebody is asking to get pick number 3, that would be Coach values. That would be 2,200. And then somebody is offering to give you pick 13 and 17 in exchange. So in that case, the value of 13 and 17 would be can be calculated by adding those two values together. So that would be 200. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 13 and 17. Yeah, that's what we said. So that would be 2,200, right? If we had 13 and 17, and then your pick is 3, 2,200. So in that case, basically the other team is giving you an equal trade. So you may or may not consider that trade. Now, if somebody offered you, let's say, to trade your pick number 1, which is worth 3,000 points, for pick number 10, which is 1,300, and pick number 12, then the answer would be no, because this plus this, pick number 10 value, or I forgot which one I said, 10 or 11 value, let's say 11. Pick number 11 value and pick number 13 value amounts to 2,500 points. So pick 1, which is 3,000 points, is more valuable. But again, nobody knows how Coach Mike developed this chart, what kind of reasoning he used, what kind of data he used, what kind of formulas he used, but that's what it is. For a number of years, you've been using this chart to value picks. Now imagine your general manager gives you the following assignment. We want to evaluate the curve, the chart, the point system that Coach Mike created. Does it make sense or not? Because Coach Mike created this chart, this valuation system a long time ago, so things have changed. So maybe we need to evaluate this chart for effectiveness and decide whether it's good or not. Or maybe we should develop our own scoring system, our own chart system, so that we can use our own valuation. So that's the task that Coach Mike gives you. So in essence, you need to generate your own chart, based on some theory, some logic, and then compare the chart that you propose with the chart of Coach Mike. So that's the essence of the case. You're trying to create a new valuation methodology for valuing picks, and you're trying to compare it with the methodology that has been around for a number of years, the methodology of Coach Mike. Now, all the additional details are discussed as a part of Case 1, page 219 in your textbook. You need to start out with a skeleton, meaning an Access database that already contains the tables that you need. And if you go back to your Canvas page, course Canvas page, you'll see that I posted the skeleton for your convenience here. So it will already have the tables that you need, so you don't have to worry about opening data. So it already has 5 tables. You just need to generate queries based on those tables. Okay, so once again, to repeat it, the final deliverable should be a zip file named using this convention, and you'll have a Microsoft database file that contains 5 tables and 6 queries, and also you'll have an Excel sheet. Now, Excel sheet will have several tabs, and I'll discuss those tabs and queries a bit later. But you need to make sure that the charts tab, the tab right here, contains not only your charts but also some kind of evaluation. Maybe you can type it. Some kind of evaluation, some kind of comparison of those of the graph of the chart by Coach Mike and your own graph, and also recommendation for team management. Should they still use this old point system developed by Coach Mike, or you believe they should use your own chart that you developed? Just make some kind of recommendation based on the comparison that you make. So this is the essence of the assignment, and this also concludes part 1 of our video presentation on assignment 8. Thank you for listening.